Today we're in Birmingham at the brand new state-of-the-art depot of East End Foods, and I'm joined by Jason Wouhra, who's a director and second generation. So Jason, why don't you tell us about the business, what it does, where it started and where you are today?
Okay, so East End Foods was set up by my father and his four brothers in Wolverhampton in the late 60s. The family moved over from Delhi in India and started selling meat and spices and lentils and stuff, ethnic food ingredients from a corner shop, from a small shop in Wolverhampton. Then from there it grew into a wholesale operation as the ethnic population increased in the Midlands. You know, there was more demand for Indian food products and so on, and they set up a small warehouse delivering wholesale spices and lentils to customers around the region. In the late 80s we moved to Birmingham because obviously the market was bigger, there was more population to deal with, and that really paved the way for the success of the business. Today the business has around about 3 million square feet of shelf space, which is about 150 football pitches.
Wow.
We manufacture all our products, so we import from all over the world. We we clean our products 8 times before packing, and then distribute to around about 60%, 65% of the ethnic food retailers around the UK. We supply to Marks and Spencer's, Tesco's, Waitrose and so on, and we export to about 40 different countries, including in the past a small amount to India. So it's grown organically over the years through the hard work of the family, second and now third generation. Okay,
and how many people do you employ? What's your turnover? You know, you've got a couple of sites, haven't you?
We've got 4 sites, all in Birmingham. There's about 400 people that we employ, 35-ish family members.
Wow.
9 directors, first and second generation.
Okay.
And that's growing, fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have more sites in the near future, and things will keep moving forward.
Great. And so talk to us about the family setup in the business. So who's involved on a day-to-day basis? Do people sit on the board? What's the setup here?
The family setup is there's 9 directors, so you've got 4 of the original founders. My eldest uncle passed away about 11 years ago. He was the chairman. So we have 4 of the original founders in the business.
Yeah.
And there's second generation, 5 of us on the board. So 9 people on the board altogether, and then wives and other kids and so on, also having management positions.
Yeah. Okay. And so with quite a complex setup really, and lots of family members involved, I think a lot of family businesses might explore the possibility of a family charter, a family constitution. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that something you guys have thought about?
We have been trying to put one together for a few years now. It's quite complicated with the size of the family to encapsulate everything in one document. So it takes time, it's something you have to be very patient with, and obviously the consensus has to be there of how do we see this business going forward, and how do we see the structure of the family involvement in the business.
And what made you want to embark on that project?
I actually introduced the idea to the family quite a few years ago, and that was from joining various conferences on family business and meeting other family business owners who had similar challenges and similar kind of scale of business. And I think that from that really it sparked off an idea that we should be looking at doing the same. Yeah.
Okay. And have you found it difficult to get people involved? Do people see why you want to do that sort of thing? Is it good to get families organised like that?
I think there's a general consensus that that's something we need. The succession of the business is very important. The future growth of the business is very important, and the family involvement in that, and what the landscape looks like going forward is also a massive critical factor in the success and the growth of East End Foods. So the family are on board, but as I said, it's quite a lengthy process, and it's not something you can rush through. It's not something you can just put together very quickly and say we'll go, because it's something that we all need to be signed up to, and then it will be effective.
Absolutely. And so I think here, as in many family businesses, the family and the business, they're intrinsically linked. So how do you balance sort of work and family and private time? You've obviously got your own wife. How do you manage that?
It's difficult because you tend to be doing a long day generally. So we're all, me and my wife works with me as well, so it's quite complicated to balance life, I think. But whatever spare time we have, we spend together, and we go out, and we like. I love cooking food, so experimenting with different, recipes, and normally making my own recipes up, to be honest. We also, I'm quite into motorsport, so we tend to go whatever spare time we have, we put into that.
And do you find that your relationships with your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, do you think that's changed because you run this, fantastically successful business together? Do you think it's for the better, for the worse?
Well, everyone in the family has their own individual discipline, so they all handle various departments. The scale of the business is fairly large now, so we're all running fairly important parts of the business. Myself, I've been involved in running the Aston site where we are today. That was we're on the site of the old HP sauce factory in Aston, so it's quite an iconic place for Birmingham. And in 3 years, we've established a good solid business, good solid foundation. So we all split the work, we all share the work, and keep the wheels moving.
Great, okay. And we recently conducted a survey, which I think you took part in, and the 3 flashpoints that really came up about issues that family businesses face were governance and succession planning, which is obviously a huge problem for any family business. The next generation, how you go about bringing them in, and whether they have to go somewhere else first or gain experience. And also the prospect of maybe one day having to sell the family business. So do you have a succession plan in place? Have you discussed this? What's the future of East End Foods? How is it set out?
We've certainly discussed the succession plan in quite a lot of depth. In fact, to the extent that we've had individual interviews for the second generation with a view to structuring the board in a slightly different way. The first generation taking a more advisory and kind of senior role as maybe non-execs or advisors or something. The second generation are all operational. So again, as I said, we share the work between us. Third generation are coming in, and there's some good guys and girls there who are, they've got a lot to contribute, but with the right guidance, with the right training, education and so on, they go into the right positions within the business.
And going back to the board, how's that set up? Is that all family members? Do you have outsiders?
At the moment it is. There's 9, as I say, 9 directors, first and second generation. We did have a non-exec for quite a few years actually, and found that to be a very worthwhile exercise because he brought an external knowledge that we didn't have before. He was the ex-managing director of Scottish and Newcastle breweries, so hugely experienced man, very good friend of the family, and we definitely benefited from it. I think in the near future we'll probably be looking for another 1 or 2 non-exec directors to balance the board and bring that governance into place. That perhaps looking at kind of a FTSE level style of governance, whilst we're not FTSE level, but I think it's important to put those practices in place so that the board understand the importance and understand what effect it has on our business.
Sure, because I think a lot of family businesses are sometimes quite hesitant to think outside the family and just think, well, we've got the skills in here, but perhaps sometimes they haven't. So what sort of advice would you say to family businesses about how an outsider can be really useful and and the skills they bring?
Well, one of the main factors that our non-exec brought in was improving the gel between the first and second generation and making each other understand where we are in our own kind of life cycle or degree of ambition and so on. So that really helped us as a family. We bonded far better with his help. And as a result, then the business kept on growing. We're one of the top 250 fastest growing companies in the UK. So it's an organically grown business. It's with the hard work of all the family members, it keeps growing double-digit growth every year. So we're not doing everything wrong, but there's certain tweaks that need to be made to look at the future growth potential of the business.
Yes, yeah. So it's often said that family businesses are the backbone of the UK economy. Something like 2/3 of all private businesses are family run. But I think they're often the forgotten sector of business. So what do you think family businesses really need to grow and to thrive and continue for generations to come?
I think that in the life cycle of any family business, you get the first generation who establish the business and make a start from zero and build it up. Our own business was started with around about £3.20 of capital, and it's grown to 200 odd million. That takes a particular skill. The second generation really come in with a different mindset. They probably are a little bit better educated normally, so they have a different skill set that they can contribute and push the business to the next level.
Yeah.
Then really the challenges are around succession and family constitution, and how you make the rule book of family business going forward, because you may have heard the saying clogs to clogs in 3 generations. It's quite often true.
Yeah.
But there are many families that have got through that, and they've done so by putting in the rules and regulations that everybody abides by, and the third generation make their contribution. Possibly it becomes more of a corporation, so you'll find that the family become less important in the day-to-day running of the business and more of a strategic input for growth as you get into the second and third generations of the business. So.
And as a family business, what would you find useful? Do you enjoy meeting other family businesses, other entrepreneurs at the helm doing the same sort of thing to share with? And
it's very easy to get into kind of group think or tunnel vision. If you're always engrossed in your family business and you've got no other strand to your life, then it's very easy to just fall into a trap of thinking, well, this is the way it's done, and so I tend to try and educate myself as much as I can. I love meeting other family business owners, so attend a lot of family business conferences. I've been to your conferences over the years, the Red Ribbon Awards. It's good for businesses to enter into family business awards, because then you've got a benchmark of what other people are doing out there, no matter what the industry.
Sure. Just
benchmarking against each other and how successful one another is.
Yeah.
That's really important. I know, again, a few times we've been to the Red Ribbon Awards, which is always a great night because you meet some lovely people.
Absolutely.
And you learn off one another. So whatever conversation you might have at any time, you will always learn from the other person that you're talking to, and as long as you're open to kind of sponging that in, you're okay.
And let's talk about all the other stuff, the other doors that being in family business might open. So I know you do a lot of philanthropy and fundraising, and talk to us about the stuff you do outside of the business, including becoming the chair of the IOD. I
think the Institute Director's position really gives me another spark. It doesn't take up a lot of time, so for very little time you actually gain a lot, and you meet some really interesting people. Things like going to Downing Street and being with a group of people that advise the Prime Minister and so on, and stuff that I never could have imagined I'd be able to get into. The charitable stuff is really interesting also, because that you're doing good for other people who might not be as fortunate as yourself. And I think it's important that people look at business. Yes, family business puts the food on the table, and it's very important to be engrossed in that, but actually it's just as important to devote a small amount of time to other matters, because you grow as a person, you contribute something to society, and generally you learn a load from the experiences you might have.
And finally, what advice would you give to perhaps a youngster that's grown up in a family business and doesn't know if it's right for them or if that's what they want to do? What would you say to them about the pros and the cons of being a family business, and what might lie ahead for you?
I think be ready for challenges. Try and educate yourself as much as you can. Try and learn from outside. Always devote a bit of time to external causes. Get on the board of various other organisations around your region. Maybe even be a non-exec for another family business, because that gives you another perspective. Be absolutely dead set on making a bigger success of what your parents did. So building on the legacy of what your family have achieved is very important, and try and enjoy it as much as you can, because where there's roses there'll be thorns. So you will always have challenges day to day. That that is just a fact of life. But the more you can kind of rise to those challenges and develop yourself, and have fun along the way, it's wonderful.
Great. Jason, thank you very much for sharing your advice. Thank you. Thanks.